Seconds, you're live. Welcome to this edition of House of Preeminence. This is the anniversary edition, 1 year after we started. House of Preeminence is the magazine that showcases the people and the conversations who are on the leading edge of success. And we all of us in the magazine are joined together in the heartfelt desire for your highest life and highest success. And today it is my absolute joy and delight to be talking to and presenting somebody who's been with me from the start of this magazine. We kind of energetically joined at the hip. We're both Aquarians and we are both absolutely passionate about achievement mastery, success mastery. This lady, if you ask somebody who's in business her name, they probably won't know her, but she's actually partly responsible for the amazing progress that we have made in the personal development world, in the transformation world, in the business world, where those worlds collide. And she has been doing this for over 40 years. She is a legend in her own right, and we're going to talk about this thing that we are both passionate about, which is achievement mastery, so that you can get some value out of it. It is my great delight to welcome Marcia Martin.
Oh, Jenny, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. And of course, love our relationship, love what we've created together, love what you've done and you've brought into existence with this magazine, and very honored to be one of the contributing editors. It's great to be here.
It is truly exciting because we met with pure synchronicity, and the universe had a little hand in there, and it's been magic so far, and it continues to be magic, and we're making magic. Now, one question I want to start off with, Marcia, as we just sat in this crazy, chaotic world where not a lot of people are thinking about success. They're thinking about survival, actually. A lot of people, companies, banks, financial institutions, individuals, families, surely the young people thinking about success. What is it that you're so passionate about success that really, really, really it applies to people irrespective of the outside circumstances? Why is achievement mastery so important?
Well, thank you for asking that. I've pretty much made my life about being able to teach and discover and understand the art of extraordinary achievement, or as you're calling it, and I call it also achievement mastery. And I've developed a golden triangle of personal power, and personal power is at the center of mastery of achievement and achievement mastery. And that golden triangle has to do with your communication mastery, your relationship competence, and your enrollment prowess. And those are the three corners of a triangle that I use in the work that I do in organizations and the work that I do one-on-one in my coaching business, whether it's business or personal coaching. And what I found right now is that personal power, the key to it all is the invisible world where you start, where your dreams are created. And I think this particular time in history and this particular time that's very difficult that we're all going through right now is a perfect time for reflection and contemplation. So it's kind of a reset for everyone. Right now is our ability to really look at, evaluate, consider if the things that we have and we've been creating are actually the ones that we want to be about, that we want to create, that we can correct our paths, that we can redesign our particular futures. So this is a very important time in our ability to have mastery over achievement.
Yeah, that word personal power makes me do backflips. Because
and I know you can do backflips from a horse.
Yeah,
so
absolutely, really. totally. Because it's so key to transcending outside circumstances, world circumstances, and coming back to, as you mentioned, the universal truths that, and we'll see where this goes, but that we are masters of our reality, that we do create our reality. We're not all responsible for pandemics, but nevertheless, we're responsible for the way that we respond to it and work through it. So this personal power is really key, because there are so many people in the world, Marcia, that simply they don't even ask themselves the question if they have personal power, if they can access personal power. It's as if they're asleep. So what has been your big work over the years? And you've taught huge corporations, you've taught individuals all over the world, tens of thousands. What has been your big message to them about them finding their personal power?
Well, first of all, I think that people look in the wrong place. So most people look outside of themselves for agreement and for power. They look outside of themselves to see what needs to be done out there, what needs to be changed out there in order for me to affect my reality, my future, how things are in the universe. And what I teach people is to go inside. You have to go inside yourself to find your actual personal power. And what happens is you have different kinds of ways that you work in the world. And there are laws, universal principles of how the world itself works. And there's a law to flow. There's a law to communication. There's a law to manifestation. So when you kind of line up with how the universe works and those universal principles, what happens is you're able to actually manifest effortlessly. Now, yes, you need to understand how to do things out in the world. You need to understand how to communicate, how to establish powerful relationships, how to persuade others to commit to the things that you're committed to so that you can build teams and make organizations and cause certain results. But first, you have to get lined up. It's almost like you need to put your boat in the river, but you need to actually realize there is a river and there's a flow. So once you get in the river, you have to learn how to row, and you have to learn how to, have a compass and go in the right particular tides. But the first thing is you need to know there is a river. You need to get in the river, in the flow. And that particular place lives within each of us. It's not a place that lives outside of ourselves. So I would say a real principle to watch for you to do or to act upon as a human being is most people think that they need to look outside of themselves to see what the circumstances are before they can decide what they're committed to. So if somebody says, would you be willing to join us and increase sales by 20% this year? Are you committed? Then the person probably will say, well, let me check and see if I have the right team. Let me check and see if I have enough time. Let me check and see if I can get the right resources together, and then I'll let you know if I can commit. So that is what most people do. We look at our circumstances to see, do we have the right money? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right circumstance to be able to say, I'm a stand for this. I'm declaring I'm committed and I'm going to cause it to happen. Well, what happens when you get in touch with your personal power is you realize that the commitment always comes first before the circumstances, but that's very scary. That's like jumping into the unknown. You have to be so secure in your own personal power that you can cause something to happen, not that you're the effect and you hope it all works out. So if you can get to that place in your life where you begin to operate from the point of view of, you say to yourself, what am I committed to? What am I going to cause? And then you may say to yourself, well, I'm not sure I can do it, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? You just throw that away. You say, no, am I committed? Is this a stand I'm going to take? Is this a declaration I'm making? Then what happens, because of universal principles and how the river flows, how it all works, how things are actually manifested, is when you have that kind of commitment and you come from that place, what happens is you actually can cause the circumstances you need to deliver on the commitments you made. So that's a very unique principle to start to look at is, are you committed to something because you chose to be committed? Or are you committed because you looked around and looked at what the circumstances were and figured out, oh, okay, I can do it if I have these circumstances. Actually, it's easier to cause something to come into existence, although it's scarier, if you commit first and then cause the circumstances, rather than if you try to make something happen because you saw the circumstances were there or you thought that they were.
That's so powerful. So, so powerful. Now, Marcia, you've been teaching principles like these for such a long time. And even though you look completely like an absolute and picture of radiance today, I'd just love to know what, because you have lived the most incredible life. I know just a small percentage of your stories, and the path that you've taken to accrue the wisdom and experience that you have. What gives you the energy? Like this could be a time in your life where you might want to just kind of slow down, but what gives you the energy to keep reinventing yourself and to keep, you know, showing up in your highest self out in the world?
I think it's a process of knowing how things work from the time I'm a child. I, as you said, have a pretty unique life. I was able, when I was a young teenager, to have a mentor who was a distant relative of mine, who was a clairvoyant teacher and an esoteric astrologist. And she taught me how energy works. And she taught me the universal principles. And she taught me all of the world religions. And she taught me the great masters and what their philosophies were in terms of how one could be, think, what mindset works. And I think it's kind of the fountain of youth. I love that you said I've had 40 years of experience, because it's been longer than that for sure. But I think the way that I think provides me with a way that my body then follows in suit. My mind follows in suit. My emotions follow in suit. And it's not an age in terms of years. It's really an age in terms of how I'm thinking. And I've practiced meditation since I was in my early teens, every day of my life. I've done the work to train my mind and discipline my mind, to be proactive, to be disciplined, to think the thoughts I want to think, rather than being at the effect of the thoughts that just happen to pass through, and that little voice in the back of our head, which can debate any side of the argument. You're screwed up. No, you're wonderful. I mean, it can pick its side whenever it wants to. So a lot of us think that little voice is who we are. And I know that if I'm listening to that voice, it couldn't be me. So I'm something bigger. And I've had an opportunity through the mentors and the teachers that I've had an astounding just honor to be with and be personally trained by some of the great thinkers of our whole time, to learn some of these universal principles. And I've made it my whole life's purpose to teach these to other people. And as you know, that's what my work is about. And that's what I do now, is I really teach the art of extraordinary achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been, or you are the influencer, except that now you are making this big step to come out and help the individual entrepreneur and the individuals out there in this big shift. And also because this is the next phase for you to help the world with this incredible vast array of wisdom and experience that you have, and hallelujah for that. So let's just come back to the triangle of personal power again, and the three parts of it, because isn't it so true that these three angles, these three approaches, these three skills, these three qualities are essential wherever you are on you know, it's not even just an entrepreneurial path, is it? It's a life path. It's totally a life path. But because our audience has got a lot of entrepreneurs, is that these three things, let's just take them apart a little bit more and go into depth a little bit deeper with them. So first of all, communication mastery. Talk to us about communication. I know it's one of your zones of genius.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. Well, these 3 points, communication mastery, and what I call relationship competence and enrollment prowess. So communication, relationship, enrollment. First of all, communication. It's my ability to connect with you and my ability to duplicate or recreate your experience as you share it with me. It's my ability to be present in this moment and to listen in a way that's generous, that gives you a lot of space to show up whatever way you do, and to allow you to have your point of view as if your point of view is possible, and to look at you and be with you as if you're, and listen as if you're brilliant. And what most people do in their communication, first of all, they kind of have it backwards. Everybody thinks speaking is the first step. And speaking is the last step. The first step is really getting oneself in present time, open and connected, or being present. And that takes a bit of understanding how to do that. And it takes some discipline to practice, because we're always triggered. We're human beings, so we have emotions. And our emotions get triggered by the events around us and the circumstances. And we get caught up in that dance. And we forget to pull ourselves back from what's happening in a way that we can really get present and open, not closed down to somebody else's point of view. People who are closed down can only be with people they agree with. And then they fight with people. That's not really communication, with people that they disagree with. Or they look at what's right and what's wrong. Things just are. And so if you can allow something to be, if you can allow a person, for example, to be who they are and allow them to kind of have the particular point of view that they're expressing, that's huge. And you have to be present, open, and connected to do that. And then there's listening. Like I said, most people don't listen generously. Most people listen, not even listening really. They're awake, they have their eyes open, they hear words, they're nodding their head, they might be saying some kind of you know, some kind of like, oh, I got that, or I hear you. But really what they're doing is they're in their head, either worried about the past, concerned about the future, or trying to figure out what they're going to say next in order to rebut whatever it is that you're saying, because they're thinking that's not right and I have a different opinion and my opinion is right. And they're putting together their own argument. They're not listening, they're not receiving, they're not connecting. And that's all of that is what communication is. So this is really the foundation of everything. And finally, there's speaking. And speaking is, it has intentionality. It takes up space. When you're speaking and you language something, you're bringing something into existence as a reality. Language is the bridge from your dream world to the manifestation of what you have in life. So you're actually creating reality. I always tell people they're living today in what they spoke last year. So it's a big thing, and people talk as if talk is cheap, and they speak as if it doesn't matter what they say. And they say all sorts of declarations that cause them to move into and prove those declarations correct or right. For example, you hear people all the time say, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not enough. Oh, I'm really shy. Oh, I could never do that. Oh, my relationships never work. I mean, keep saying all those things, and then pretty soon as a human being, just because of who we are, you have to prove or create the situations that prove what you just said was right. And pretty soon you're living in exactly what you said. So people don't even listen to the words that they're creating or that they're speaking, as if those words have power. And so all of those things, the being present, the listening, the allowing, the receiving, the speaking, the connecting, you put all of those things together in communication. And that's a big, big art to learn. There's lots of laws, just like gravity. You know, you don't go out, decide one day you're going to go up to the 10th floor and take the 10th floor window out the door when you want to exit, just because screw gravity. I don't care what the law is. You organize your life around gravity, right? You always walk down to the first floor, take the elevator or the stairs and go out the front door. But there are laws in communication. Nobody bothers to learn them. And once one learns them, one has to follow them. And one is, you need to be centered first before you listen, before you speak. You need to listen first so that you can receive someone and empty them out so that there's any space for what you have to say when you want to speak. So it's a lot of things to learn, but it's really fun. And once you learn, it's not that they're profound, these laws of communication, but they're simple. They're easy to understand if you're willing to look. And once you learn them, you start to be a painter of your own future. And just like you're painting a picture, you can speak anything you want into existence. So that piece of the triangle, of the golden triangle of personal power and being able to understand the art of extraordinary achievement, communication mastery is a big one.
I love the way while you're speaking, I love the way that these principles are in a context of an entrepreneur, but absolutely in life itself. I was feeling myself growing richer for listening to you speaking, describing that. And actually, I'm also in my head a lot. And even though that I love talking to people, it's such a habit, isn't it? Just to be somewhere else and not quite present. You're absolutely right. And it really is a critical skill for entrepreneurs to learn. So and it does move beautifully onto relationships. I love the way that these three are so intertwined.
Yes.
So relationship competency. What is relationship competency?
Well, first of all, there's lots of different ways that we relate. So one thing, think of things are in relationship to each other, right? Yeah. So I can't say something is high or low unless I also have in my mind the thing that I'm relating it to. So there's a thing in organizations and in personal relationships that have to do with standards. In other words, if I can know what your standard of something is, then I can relate what I'm doing to that standard. We can have agreed upon standards. And then I know if I'm working in my relationship with you according to that relationship or standard. For example, somebody says, please be on time. Now there's a big relationship here. There's a relationship with time. There's a relationship with my standard of time. There's a relationship with my interpretation of what I mean by being on time. And you've got to clarify that if you're going to have a working team. So this is important, and team is all a relationship, isn't it? So for example, if I tell people, please be on time, and somebody shows up 5 minutes late, I say, how come you're late? Well, I wasn't late. I was only 5 minutes. And their standard is, as long as I'm no more than 5 minutes late, I'm on time. Or you find somebody else and they are there, the first person in the seat, they come in the door before, it's unlocked. The meeting hasn't even started yet. They're 2 minutes early, they're 3 minutes early. And they feel they would be late if they weren't early. That's their standard. So there's that kind of a relationship. Then there's relationship in terms of relationships, right? Falling in love is a relationship. Men and women, how I relate to the opposite sex. Doesn't matter what my sexuality is, there's still opposite sex, and how our brains work are different. So being successful in relationship, you better know how a man's brain works and how a woman's brain works. You want to know what motivates men and what motivates women, And we are from different species, so to speak. It's not like, I love, my friends always think that, oh, I'm talking to a guy, but they talk to the guy as if it's a woman with a lot of hair, right? In other words, what I'm saying is they speak the same way to a man that they speak to a woman, and they just think, oh, he's different because he's more hairier, right? Or women or men who talk to women, and they speak the same way they do to men, but they just consider that the women they're speaking to are like men, just that they're more emotional. You see, and what I teach people, and what you really need to know in terms of relationships, in terms of that kind of relationship, is the differences, how we are the same, how we are different. My great friend John Gray, who wrote Mars and Venus books, says it the same way too. He says men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So there is this way that we relate, that we have to understand who we are and how to relate. And that whole piece is so much fun. I mean, it's necessary to learn. How many divorces do we have in life? How many upsets do we have in life? How many times do you fight with your sister or your brother or your parents? So that relationship piece, how we use our communication and what we understand about communication to connect and listen generously and be present and allow and receive, then how do we take that into a conversation of a relationship with another human being so that we can line up and be aligned and cause something fantastic to happen? Even if it's as fantastic as, let's go to the same movie together. Do you see?
Mm. And this takes us beautifully round to the third part of the triangle, which is enrollment, and explain to us why enrollment isn't just about selling, that it is actually still part of relationship and communication. Yeah. And what's so key about it?
So when I teach, I tell my students I make a distinction between selling and enrolling. And if you go to old age kind of selling, people think that I have to talk you into something. I have to manipulate you. I have to coerce you. I have to push you. I have to pressure you. And the way we do that is we tell that person that we're selling to what they want, what they need, and what they can afford. Well, think about it. When you're in a position where somebody's trying to have you buy something, which is the old age selling, they'll say, oh, you really need this. Oh, you really can use this. Oh, you'll love this. Well, they're telling me what's so for me. They don't know what's so for me. They may know what the product does, and they can tell me what's so for them about the product. And then I can be inspired or enrolled into it myself. But if they tell me what's so for me and why I should do it and what it's going to do for me, they're trespassing on my own self-determination. So what I say the difference of enrollment and sales is when I'm pushing you and telling you what you want and what you need and what you can afford. And then what I do is I stand back and I say, okay, you're going to do it? Well, see, that decision to buy or not to buy is the hardest decision in life to make, because we don't usually, as a human being, consider our own agreement to be what we look towards to find out if we should do something. We look outside of ourselves to try to get agreement from somebody else. We want somebody to tell us we're okay. And so when somebody presents us with, are you going to do it or not? It's paralyzing. We don't know. We're not sure. Who can I ask? Who can tell me? This is very uncomfortable. So a salesman in the oldest sense of the world is really cruel, because they are taking away your self-determination in the first step of telling you what you need and want and can afford in life. And then they're making it so uncomfortable for you to even how you move as a human being. They're not supporting you at all. And if you make the wrong decision, then they've got this other technique called pressure. They just keep telling you you need it more, and they do it louder and longer, and until you just give up and say, okay. So enrollment's different. And enrollment isn't just about enrolling someone into a product. it's enrolling into a relationship. It's enrolling into a commitment. It's enrolling into a cause. It's enrolling into a reality. In other words, I have a way I see the world, and I can enroll you to see my perspective. If I can have you see the way I see things, then I can do things with you I couldn't do before. So it's really important. And enrollment is where I share my experience, don't tell you what your experience is. And I actually ask you questions to find out what your experience really is. And I listen as if it's actually possible and as if you're brilliant. And I'm not judging you. And I allow whatever your perspective is instead of trying to change it. And then what happens is once I share in that way, I'm sharing from my heart. I'm sharing what my experience is. I'm authentically communicating. What happens to you is instead of resisting what I'm saying, you get inspired. That's enrollment, when you're inspired to move towards something. And then the other step of enrollment is I learn to very elegantly and exquisitely and with precision and with grace give you an instruction so that you can do what you're inspired about. In other words, it's not a question, are you going to do it? It's an instruction of how you do what you just told me you wanted to do in the first place.
That sounds complete magic. It's magical. And as I'm listening to you and seeing the way each one flows into the other, it's almost like if one of these is missing, if one of these links is missing, it was like you can't have a triangle. A triangle with two sides collapses, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just folds up. So if you don't have one of these elements, there's an incompleteness, and it won't go anywhere. Whereby the triangle is the most solid shape in the universe. It stands like this, and it can't be rocked. Yeah. So it is an amazing structure of approach, and I see how deeply personal it is. You began with that and said this is not about causing an effect outside. This is about going inside. So you've kind of come full circle or full triangle to.
That's good.
Yeah, I know. We've come full triangle to describe how whatever you want to create outside, you need to create within first, with those three qualities articulated, which is
and that's why also, Jenni, that I call it the golden triangle of personal power. I mean, that is personal power. When you have the exquisite ability and skill set of those three things, then your personal power is easily manifested.
I love it.
I love that you love it.
And I love it, and I love that you love it. We love it because you are actually preparing to a container for this body of wisdom to help people this year, which is so freaking exciting.
Yeah.
And we're working on that together. So look out, whoever's watching.
Yes.
In the meantime, there is a place that people can go and watch some of your wisdom in your events and your conferences and your trainings already. Tell us about that. Tell us about where we can touch your greatness already.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, go to marciamartinclub.com, and it's MARCIA club.com. I've created an online digital library where you can access my workshops, seminars, podcasts, speaking engagements from the past. We've uploaded them, so it's kind of like an HBO on demand or a Netflix of Marcia Martin. And it's past things that I've done in live events that now you can get online for only $10 a month. And a lot of what I've been talking about, these three competencies and skill sets and abilities, are what I've been teaching literally for over 50 years. And you can access it on the club. And for $10 a month, it's fun too. I'm pretty good on stage and pretty funny. You'll laugh your ass off, I think, when you start watching and listening to me.
I can vouch for that. And you'll also realize when you visit the Marcia Martin Club, just the caliber of this amazing lady and the accolades and testimonials that she's had from some of the top people in the world. So you really will be moving with greatness by getting into the Marcia Martin Club. So Marcia, just to conclude that beautiful work as we prepare that and we launch it to the world, is there anything else that you'd like to share personally from you, from your heart, to people listening to this today?
Well, my whole life's work, as you know, is making and having other people's lives work better. That's been what I have been about my entire life. And I'm in the last quarter of my life now, I feel. And so my purpose and intention is to take the wisdom that I've been graced to receive and learn and trained in so fully and elegantly, and all the adventures and experiences I've had. I've trained over 300,000 people around the globe. I've put together multi-million-dollar organizations and entrepreneurial ventures. The people I've met, the people I've been mentored by, all of that, I want to give back. That's why I'm doing the club. That's why I'm doing this new launch with you in terms of programs and new training programs that we're creating around the golden triangle of personal power. And I just want everybody to know who they are, to wake up to that, to be in touch with that, to actualize that, and to be able to manifest and contribute in their own personal worlds the things that are important to them.
Wonderful. And you truly are a shining example of preeminence. You are our this is what preeminence really is. And not everybody's preeminent, but you truly are preeminent, and not because you for what you say, just for what you've done, what you do, who you are, the personal power that exudes from you. It is an absolute joy to be in your company. I thank you so much. I love you massively as well, and so excited to be continuing to work with you in the magazine and on getting the triangle of personal power out to the world as well. So thank you so much, Marcia, for all you do for the world and your dedication to humanity in the most discreet and funny way and gorgeous and sparkly way. So thank you for being you.
Thank you so much, Jenni. My pleasure and my honor to be here with you. Thank you.